Good evening and welcome to our January edition of our Facebook live stream. Thank you so much for joining us and for welcoming us into your homes or wherever it is that you're tuning in from. This evening, I'm very pleased to be joined by the newest member of our administration team here in BMR, and that is Dr. ChanRemka, who is leading the JFK AFM complex. And Dr. Remka's here tonight to talk to us about the great work that's been going on at the complex and what the rest of the year has in store for us and our students there and our community. And so in just a moment, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Remka to talk us through some just really important and special highlights about the teaching and learning and some of the climate and culture and community that Dr. Remka and the team are building over at the JFK AFM complex. I do just want to share with anybody tuning in that if you see me looking down at my phone, it is because any questions that you have as we're working through our 30-minute live stream this evening will be sent in through text. So if you see me look down, please know that I'm just looking at any questions that are coming in. And with that, please do send in your questions as we're just having a conversation about the good work happening at the complex, and we're happy to address those. And so with all of that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Remka, to share a little bit about the good work you're doing at the complex.
Thank you, Dr. DeFalco. So I will say one thing. If your child comes home, look exhausted, that means they are working very hard in school. A lot of teaching and learning going on at the complex. So I would like to highlight the first thing I want to talk about is we have a new science program, and we have 7 teachers piloted that program, and it's really an inquiry model. And so the student is really get that hands-on experiments and learning science, in a real way. Instead of reading science, they're really looking at these experiments and discover and really, spot their curiosity. And just last week, we had our PD day. The week before, we had our PD day. And all the teachers were trained in the program, and they're excited. We'll be starting next week, fully implement in every grade level. If you look at the same slide, on the left-hand side, look at this little boy. I was so proud of him. He's just actually a first grader. We're really digging into the Envision math this year. All the curriculum mapping will align for each grade level, and everyone is on the same page. It's really excited for me to go into the classroom, walk into one second grade classroom and go into another second grade classroom. They are learning the same thing. So getting everybody on same page is just a great thing. So we also have teachers looking at, because we have implemented Envision Math for a few years now, so we want to bring it to the next level, really looking at the data. We look at itemized data, teacher analyze the data, and really identify the strength and also the area of need for additional instruction.
That's great. And so inquiry-based, if you could share a little bit more about what that means. So when you're talking about inquiry-based models, you're talking about experiments, you're talking about kids using different equipment, materials. Can you just kind of unpack maybe an example of what that might look like? If you walked into a classroom and saw a science lesson, what would you say?
So they really start out with a question, kids, essential question, what do you see in this scope? So the whole scope have all these experiments, and they unpack and will refer back to this essential question. So I would see kids, as you see on the first slide, kids are looking at Earth rotation. They really looking at, instead of reading Earth rotation, what is Earth rotation? They really experiment, looking at where the sunlight, doing the inquiry experiments and answer their own questions.
And so when we shift gears and we talk about math, this particular picture looks like this youngster's working out some type of a problem. Those look like maybe multiplication arrays or something, some type of a problem up on the board. It's hard to tell, but...
actually, subtraction.
It's subtraction. Yeah. Okay. And so, you said he was a first grader?
Yeah.
Yeah, so multiplication would be pretty far along.
Yeah. I wish.
That's coming. But so where it sounds like the science program, STEM Skills program, is pretty hands-on for students. Talk a little about the shifts in math. So you talked about alignment. You talked about, seeing the same type of instruction and learning happening in both, second grade classrooms. Is there an opportunity in the math program for that same type of really hands-on learning that kids are doing in science? Is that similar? Yeah,
so it really makes them think deeper into math. It's not one way of doing subtraction. So as you can see in this picture, this child, this first grader, is really using different strategies to solve the math problem. We teach kids, there's not one way to solve problem, but several ways. And kids are trying different ways to solve problem. I remember one of the students actually showed me those, strategies that he used. I say, when I was in first grade, I never learned it that way. Can you teach me? And he was able to teach me. And it's very exciting. He felt good looking at his face like, wow, I just taught Mrs. Remka, how to solve this math problem. I think it's really giving that choice to the students, how to solve a problem. Not one way, but several ways. And put the ownership back on the students. And I think that's important.
It just the same kind of thing. I remember visiting a third grade classroom once, and the student was working on a division problem, and he was actually just doing a ton of subtraction. And I was watching him and thinking, this is really interesting. And I asked the youngster, I'm like, what is it that you're actually doing? He said, oh, this is repeated subtraction. This is how I solve division. And I thought, that actually makes sense, mathematically when you look at, but you're right, in showing kids a variety of ways to get to the answer and then letting them pick the one that makes the most sense to them is kind of what I'm hearing you say.
And I want them to retain it, and if they take ownership, they solve it, they understand it. It's not memorization, just now and tomorrow they don't remember it. We want them to be able to remember. We want them to be able to refer back to their learning, go back to that file cabinets and, really take out what they learned. And okay, I learned that last month and this is what I can use to solve this problem. We want them to sustain their learning.
And it might be on a future slide in here, but one of the things, since we're talking about STEM and we're science and math, I know you've got a great makerspace.
Yes.
And I don't want to jump ahead if that's in here somewhere already, or
no, but we can talk about it now.
Do you want to just share a little bit about, because that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. That's really the engineering piece. If you talk about STEM, we have a technology classes for the students, but we want to give students that hands-on engineer piece. So student in Makerspace, they learn how to construct things, put things to create things. One of the classes I went in to observe, they made these cards and Excel itself, with batteries and stuff. So the kids are having fun, but they're learning engineering piece of the curriculum.
That's great. So there's a lot more here. As far as the math and science work goes. You just mentioned a technology class, makerspace, and engineering, which is pretty cool. It's good stuff happening at the complex for sure. Yeah. So what about some of our work with literacy? Where are we with that?
Sure. So I'm actually very excited. I'm seeing kids writing. If you look at the next slide, is the empowering writers. This year, the K-1 teachers receive intensive trainings on empowering writers, and they see a lot of modeling by the trainers. The trainers really get into the classroom working with kids and modeling strategies for the teachers. And the teachers most of the teachers had the opportunities to observe each other and really critique each other. And I think if we look at, the book we've been reading, Brene Brown, we need to be vulnerable. And I think this year we really asked the teachers, be vulnerable.
The Dare to Lead book.
Yeah. Be vulnerable, open up your classroom. And I think the teachers feel comfortable. I can see it. Yeah, can I come in and watch you? Today we had another fourth grade groups went into one of the classroom to observe a writing lesson.
Nice.
And it was really empowering watching teachers to open up to each other. If you see one of the pictures on the right, that's really I was very proud of that. And I'm sure you were very proud of that.
I think I took that picture.
Yes. The second grade students, they wrote a persuasive essay on banning the plastic straws.
Which we're doing.
Exactly. Yep. So these are, Dr. DeFalco called them environmental crusaders. They really are. And they were very excited having you there.
Oh, they were awesome.
When is he coming?
Our brilliant young minds.
Yep. And they know they are the one who made that changes. I think this is the most important thing is, kids learning in the school, but really put it into practice. That's like a perfect example.
Absolutely. Yep. So can you share a little bit about, you mentioned some of the work with teachers and how teachers are really supporting each other, which is perfect. Like that's exactly what we want. We're, one team coming at this from the same, teaching and learning from the same place. Can you share a little bit about what's the impact been on the students, right? So the kind of, my sense is like the better we all get at this work, right? The stronger the students will be at learning, right? Whether it's math or English or literacy. Have you noticed anything in terms of, students' writing abilities or their reading abilities or anything that you've noticed as visiting classrooms in terms of students really strengthening that learning muscle?
I think by them watching teachers, open up their classroom, go in and share their ideas and, receive constructive feedback from each other, I think that the kids look at the teachers as learners. They a lot of our teachers will sit down with students and talk about, their progress. And I think they watch their teachers do the same thing with each other. And they looking at it as, hey, it's really constructive feedback to help me to improve, move to the next level. And they look at teachers now, they're learners as well, not just us. They're learning themselves. Yeah. So I think it's really empowering. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think on that same note, we all are. You just mentioned the Dare to Lead book by Brene Brown, and when we're all reading that and learning a lot about leadership and our own kind of personal growth within the leadership work and just being a stronger person, I guess is a good way to say that.
And I think we are modeling that to the students that we don't know everything.
Sure. Yeah.
I asked a student, hey, how do you solve that? And he showed it to me. Another student asked me, ChanRemka, do you know how to do this? I said, I'm not sure. How about you? Do you know how to do this? I think it's very important for us to be, open up, be honest to the kids.
Yep.
I'm not perfect. Let's learn that together. So I think they appreciate that.
Yeah. My 10-year-old always says mistakes are for learning. I'm like, well, until you keep repeating the same one.
Well, my husband will say he's perfect. He doesn't make any mistakes.
Whole nother issue. So moving forward.
So as I mentioned it before, teachers, our students are learners. Our teachers are, as learner. If you look at learners, if you look at the pictures, the pictures on the left is actually is one of the empowering writers training, and our trainer in there actually working with kids and teachers observing.
Is that kindergarten?
That is kindergarten.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
I think you were in there.
Yeah, I think so.
Were you in there? Yeah. We walked in. It was like
That's so
6
great.
teachers in there.
Yeah.
But it's funny. Like you look at the kids, didn't even face them.
Yeah. They probably love the attention.
Yeah. I think they're so used to having adults in there.
Yeah.
So it was great. And just like the students, we are learners. And then looking at the pictures on the right-hand side, we teachers are digging deep into the math instruction, dissecting a lesson and looking at, what way I can do better to deliver that instruction, again,
so that kids can learn it better.
Yep. So looking at all the data,
So so you've mentioned the word data quite a few times, right? So clearly to me and anyone tuning in, it would seem that the JFK AFM complex is looking at a lot of data, right? And by data, you're referring to student work, right? And not just MCAS or STAR data, but you've referenced a couple times student writing, the labs that they're working on, the Envisions lessons, like the day-to-day lessons and activities, or the tests or quizzes. Have you all put together like a kind of a packaged way to look at that? Because that's a lot of information. You're right, because you got to look at it, and then you got to figure out, well, what do we do with this now?
Right.
Is that kind of what you guys are working through?
So we're in the process of looking at a protocol to looking at student samples, because it's not all about numbers, because you can look at student writing. So what are we looking at? When we look at a piece of writing, how do we identify areas of, need extra support? So we are in the process of coming up with a protocol, and we have to practice too, and looking, we're so used to looking at our own students' writing. It would be nice to sit, this is what we talked about with the teachers. It would be nice to have all the second grade teachers sit together, have them look at each other's students' writing.
Sure, yeah.
Because we're biased.
Yeah.
We're
it's your
biased.
class, right? That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right, to a
So
certain
you want to
extent.
be unbiased, looking at other students' writings.
Yep.
I think we have made huge progress on analyzing data. I think at the beginning of the year, they were scared to death. They look at numbers, they don't know what to do with those numbers, they don't know what does that mean. But now, little by little, we training teachers, looking at those data, explaining what that means.
Yep.
Growth, what does that mean? If you're looking at a student who is still not proficient, but made 55% growth, that's huge for that student.
Sure, yeah.
And that's worth to celebrate.
Absolutely.
And I think that's important for teachers to know, you know what, right, you might have some students are not proficient, but look at the growth.
And they're working towards
That's
that,
right. Yep.
That's huge. And I think it sounds like what you're saying is you've started at the place where we're getting comfortable. We're getting comfortable with looking at our student data, the kids that we serve every day as classroom teachers, at our colleagues, students, that's kind of coming soon, it sounds like. Looking at each other's practice and visiting each other's classrooms and being really open to that. That's really important, because that is establishing and setting a climate for learning. And we're all learners, as you said, so that's huge. That's really, really great.
So moving on to the next piece, when I first started, the first thing I said to the kids is, I want you to, the fifth graders, I said, I want you to leave this complex remembering all the, happy moments. We want kids to be happy. I want kids to look forward to come back to school. Just like when, Sunday night, I'm sitting at home sending, newsletter to the family, I am looking forward to come back to see your children. And I want the kids to do the same thing. I can't wait to go to school. I remember my elementary school is a happy place. So to us, we need to celebrate. So we celebrate Student of the Month. Like October was a cooperative, November was honors, December was attentive, and then this month we're celebrating kids that are respectful. So every month is a theme, and teachers, nominate students for Student of the Month, and we buy them ice cream, and we celebrate. We need to celebrate, because kids work very hard. And teachers work very hard. So we celebrate Student of the Month, and also this year, to the next slide, this year, we created student ambassadors. Very similar to student councils at the middle school and high school with elementary. And I didn't want to take that away from the middle school and high school, so I call them student ambassadors. They're really ambassadors. So that is for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Currently, we have about 28 ambassadors. And just on last Thursday, we had students, if you see the picture on the right, and we have students signing up for subcommittees. And it's funny when I say, okay, we're going to sign up for subcommittee, they said, what is that? So I had to explain. So we have 4 subcommittees, and one of them is like family engagement. They could be a greeters, at open house. And one of them is mentoring and tutoring. They could be mentoring younger grade at JFK, student in kindergarten room or grade 1, mentoring them and tutoring students that are struggling. So they were so excited signing up. And one student made me so proud. He said, I think I'm going to sign up for this committee because not a lot of people sign up. So I'm going to just do it. I said, that speaks volume of his character. So I mentioned it to all of them. I say, you're leaders. I'm going to meet with you. And you're going to, when I was a middle school principal, student councils met with me, pretty much told me what to do.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
When we have events, they plan it. And so I explain all of that to them, and they are so excited. I'm excited having them, on board, having student leaders on board.
That is huge. And part of our purpose as a district is to develop happy, healthy, proficient kids ready for college, career, and community. So, we want to make sure that kids are not just proficient, right? They have to be. We want them, really, really solid with their academic skills, of course, their analytic thinking, and that work is hugely important. But we also just want healthy and happy kids.
Right.
And so it sounds like you are really taking that head on at the complex. But I know you've also done a lot of other really creative things. I think I drove by on Thanksgiving and I saw you tackling somebody.
I didn't tackle somebody.
Somebody was tackling. So tell us about the events, because you guys have done some really cool and fun things.
Yeah. So we had, in November, that last day, was it Wednesday before Thanksgiving, our half day, we had our annual Turkey Bowl. And it's basically a flag football, students against teachers.
Oh, was it the first time?
First time. And it wasn't long enough. Everybody's, it's over. Kids had so much fun. I think Mrs. Cody got hurt too.
Oh boy.
So before the game, I told kids, you have no chance. You're going to get the toilet bowl. And I'm like teasing them. We lost.
The staff lost?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
the
hilarious.
Student won the Turkey Bowl. They had so much fun. And I think it's great to have the students see our staff on a different level.
Yeah.
Being
that's
silly, being tackled by students.
Yep.
And we had so much fun that day.
That's great.
And then last week we had, in one of the pictures, we had our third, fourth, and fifth grade students sang at the Providence Booms game. Wow. It was fun. Yeah,
they look fantastic. Yeah, and I'm sure they sounded even better.
Yeah. They sound great.
And what's this picture down here? This
on the bottom?
Cardi's Furniture.
So I contacted Cardi's Furniture because we take care of our students. We have to take care of the people who take care of our students, right? So our teachers. So I asked for a donation, and they gave us new dining room set and leather couch.
Oh, nice.
For our teachers' room. One of our teachers' room.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That's great. So you have done some incredible things in what, 6 months?
Yeah.
Thereabouts?
I feel like I've been here for 6 years.
Yeah. Well, you've certainly done a lot to really, reset the culture and climate at the complex, but also to really get it not just focused on teaching and learning what it has to be, right? We're a school. That's what we do. We are about teaching and learning. But it sounds like you're working really hard with the teachers there to also make it fun.
Right.
And that's the key we know with students is we want them engaged. Yeah. If they're truly engaged in the work, they'll learn better. You mentioned something that really stuck with me a few minutes ago about that idea of making sure kids retain information. And I see it with my own two boys at home. I have a 5th and an 8th grader at home, and I see it. I can tell the stuff that like they genuinely get and understand, and it's meaningful to them, and the other stuff that they're just kind of breezing through to get it done. And I think what we're trying to do, what I'm hearing you say you're trying to do, is make the experience authentic, make it real for the students in the best way possible. But also, back to the first, kind of slide you were discussing, make it aligned. Yeah. Right? Because I think for all of us, that's an equity issue. When you go in one second grade classroom and they're learning one thing, and you go into another second grade classroom and learning something else. And we can't have that. Right? There needs to be a sense of equity around what's being taught. And it sounds like you've worked with your staff really hard to really put that equitable, teaching and learning practices in place in terms of the curriculum and how you're doing that. So you guys have done a lot of really good work. Does anybody have any questions? The only message I got from my producer out here is that no, there are no questions. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
You did a good
job. And while we're waiting for folks to send some questions in, just quickly, at the end of the stream tonight when we wrap up, you'll see a video just following this about our Blackstone Millville Regional School District app. that we have, and you can download in your app store. And as you know, we launched a new website, a new app as a way of communicating. And we certainly have, some work to do still to get all the information up there that we need to. But we hope that families find it helpful. So far, we've had 167 iPhone users download the app to their phone, and we've had 73 Android users. So we're getting there. But, with a district of about 2,000, kids and adults, et cetera, we want to make sure that everybody has that to get as much real-time information as possible. And if you turn your notifications on, you'll get messages when things need to be in real time, and it will pop up on your phone. And I'm still not seeing any questions. So is there anything else you want to share, Dr. Remka, before we wrap up about the good work happening?
Yeah, last thing I want to say, I mentioned to Dr. DeFalco before we started, that I had a bucket list that I want to do. And I check off every item that I had on my bucket list. And when I look back on my list and I look at what I really love is working with kids. One of those pictures in the slide is one of the teachers took the picture that me sitting on the floor working with kids, and that's what I love to do. I love your children, and I want them to be happy at the complex. Is important to me because their feelings is very important. Is very important to me. So I want to make not only they're responsible citizens, but also a happy child. Happy child to be in school and leaving the complex. Remember us. That we care about them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I definitely share that sentiment. And I know that you're working on that very hard, you and the staff over at the complex. Mm-hmm. So I want to thank you for that. So with that in mind, that's just a positive note. We'll wrap up our live stream. I don't see any questions coming in. It's just about 6:30. Time goes quick, wow. Huh? Isn't that crazy? But please do join us next month when we will be hearing from Ms. Christina Schaefer, the principal of Millville Elementary School. And she'll be sharing some of the good work that's happening over at MES. And so with that, we want to just thank you, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Introducing the brand new app for Blackstone Millville Regional School District on Android and iPhone. It's everything BMR in your pocket. This is the home screen. Tap the school's icon in the top right or swipe left to select a specific school. Tap the 3 horizontal lines in the top left or swipe right to see all the menu items. To turn on push notifications, tap Settings and select Turn on Notifications. The Events section shows a list of all events throughout the district. You can use this button to add an event to your calendar, or tap here to share the event with friends and family. Live Feed is where you'll find updates from administration about what's going on in the district right now, whether that's celebrating a student's success or reminding you about an upcoming deadline. Search Blackstone Millville Schools in the App Store or Play Store to explore the app for yourself. It's everything BMR in your pocket.